Welcome to another episode of Sustainability Talks, the podcast at the heart of the environmental movement, brought to you by ETF Partners, Europe's leading impact venture capital firm. I'm your host, Zoë VanderWolk, a partner here at ETF Partners. Today, we're honored to welcome a few of the founders from the ETF Partners portfolio, including Alexis Pentazis, co-founder of Hellas Direct, a company that's redefining insurance with a focus on transparency and customer empowerment, proving that even traditional sectors can pivot towards more sustainable practices. Laura Betch, one of the pioneering forces behind Fairly Made, a company transforming the fashion industry by providing unparalleled transparency and promoting ethical manufacturing processes. And not least, we have Hubert Penn from Dexter Energy, who is at the forefront of utilizing AI to optimize energy usage for businesses, demonstrating the power of technology in achieving efficiency and sustainability. This dynamic conversation will explore the challenges they faced, the victories they've celebrated, and how technology has been an indispensable ally in their journey. Our guests will also share practical advice and insights for other businesses looking to tread the path of sustainability, ensuring that the road to a greener future is one that we can all embark on together. So sit back, relax, and let's delve into the inspiring stories of how Hellas Direct, Fairly Made, and Dexter Energy are forging a more sustainable and bright future. This is Sustainability Talks, the platform where we showcase that the path to a sustainable business future is not just a vision, it's our current reality. So Laura, I'm going to turn to you first over at Fairly Made. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself and how you came to found the company?
So we founded the company 5 years ago with Camille, my associate. We were both working in the industry, starting by working into factories, Camille in Peru and from my side in China. And after that, working in the fashion industry from luxury side for Camille, my associate, and from more mass market and premium brands from my side. I was working for another story from H&M Group and a premium brand called Maison Kitsune. And so we were in these big groups and we wanted to make something better for industry. We realized that the impacts of this industry were super huge and that we had no leverage to work on it. And so this is when we decided that we wanted to make the industry a better one. And this is really what is driving us every day, to improve the impact of the fashion industry.
So you were working within the industry and then recognized a need, for a sort of digital solution to solve a sustainability problem. Would that be a fair summary?
Exactly. And after that, we went on the ground. We visited more than 200 factories from farmers, pimmers, dyers, manufacturers, every steps to understand what is at stake. And we were before experts on the industry. We saw a need and then we wanted to make it possible at a global level to really have a large impact on the industry.
Cool. And Hubert, were you also within the industry recognizing a need or coming in from the outside?
Yeah, I actually came in from the outside. So I'm a trained aerospace engineer and management accountant. And I started my career in private equity investments. Did something in between. And there I spent a lot of time in the mountains where I realized how climate change was changing how the mountains looked like. And I felt I wanted to do something about that. And there also the realization that energy consumption is one of the big levers that are causing climate change and could potentially also be a solution. Now, there's always consumption, of course, and we want to reduce that, but at the same time, we also want to transition the production side towards a 100% renewable system. And that's something that Luc was already working on when I joined him as co-founder in 2017. So he already had a 6 months head start where he was using an AI-based forecaster to forecast the real-time imbalance, so supply and demand, with the idea to reduce consumption in moments where the price is low as a result of a lot of generation due to solar and wind. So really, the idea in the early days was to use price forecasting to shift our energy consumption towards moments where there is a lot of energy on the grid due to solar and wind.
Very cool. I didn't ask before, what were you doing in the mountains? Was it skiing or?
My now wife and I were in very busy jobs in Amsterdam. As a first job, she was a strategy consultant, and I worked in private equity. And after a few years, we thought, we like to work hard, but at the same time, we do want to have a real impact if we put all in those hours. And so we did actually a sabbatical where we started a mountain retreat business. I'm a passionate alpinist, and Barbara was always into yoga and mindfulness. And that's what we did. So we actually started a mountain retreat there. But after 2 years, it went really well. And we realized we are becoming hoteliers, which is not what we want to do in the long run. And I was really looking for an opportunity to use my brain again. And so that's kind of how we made the step towards let's go somewhere where we can spend our next 10 to 20 years on. And that's how I ended up in the energy space.
Fantastic. Wow. Well, there are some commonalities already. I'm hearing complex systems. I'm hearing data collection. I'm hearing, sort of using digital tools to solve these sort of complex problems. Alexis, does that resonate with you? Were you also coming from within your industry to solve big complex problems, or coming from the outside?
I love the fact that you're comparing insurance not with fashion, but with energy. So we'll come back to that. First of all, thank you very much, Zoe. It's fantastic to be on Sustainability Talks. And Laura, Hubert, great to be on the same panel here. I guess from our side, just to give you a little bit of the historical context, my co-founder, Emilius, and myself, we used to work in the City of London, we're at Goldman Sachs together. He's an insurance guy, I'm not. He convinced me that insurance is a sexy industry to look into. So he's a very good salesman. But I think what we realized at some stage of our lives, I think I was 32 at the time, Emilius was 36 or 37, was that there was a macro opportunity to set up a new insurance company in Greece. Greece was about to enter the biggest and longest recession in modern history. We didn't know at the time. We could just see recession coming. We didn't know it would actually be a 25% drop in GDP, 70% youth unemployment, 30% actual unemployment. So it was a very difficult, volatile macroeconomic environment to set up a business in. We took the decision to set up an insurance company because we thought that, the Greek consumer deserved more than what they were getting. Insurance was inaccessible, unaffordable, and this was mostly on motor at the time. And through the years, back to what Hubert was saying about seeing the impact of climate change, we realized that, especially when you look at Greece, Italy, Spain, Cyprus, where I'm originally from, you look at that belt, that is the zone in Europe that is the most impacted, obviously, by the increase in temperatures. And what we saw there is that there is a huge protection gap that is popping up. So people cannot get insured for home insurance, even if they wanted to in certain areas because of the impact of climate change. So I guess where we originally started was not very much a sustainability play as such, but we soon realized that every single company, especially in insurance, needs to have a sustainability angle going forward, especially when you operate in the markets that we operate in, which is the kind of blind spot of Europe. So I would say Greece, Cyprus, Romania. We're probably expanding to Czech Republic and Slovakia soon. And that's kind of the genesis of the company. Now, back to your question, Zoe, data, technology become very, very important in everything we do. I think that's what differentiates you. That's what allows you to actually have affordable, accessible, and personalized insurance services for your consumer. That's more or less the genesis of Hellas Direct.
So it seems to me like either whether the company was founded with sustainability, sort of at its heart, or like Alexis was saying, it's sort of sustainability became, afterwards. All three of you seem to feel that, that the sort of sustainability has now become the absolute core of the company mission. Would you agree that that's the case?
Yeah, well, exactly. We've seen really the industry transformed so much since 5 years for the fashion part. Now we see it like in different ways. First, there is regulation. That is really driving the change and like forcing every company to deeply look into it. And then like from the operational part, well, there are goals now settled. And what we see is that now the CSR director sometimes or part of the ExCom. So this is where that it's becoming strategic. But I feel that the challenge today is really to make the link between like the CSR strategy, like I want to reduce reduce by 30% my CO2 emissions, and the real operations that need to work on these topics. So this is where really we, I would say, fill the gap by like putting in the hands of the operational teams the right tool to work on this impact and improve them.
And Hubert, would you guys say that initially you guys sold yourselves as a sort of sustainability company, or it was more focused on, sort of energy trading, or both? And has that changed over time?
Yeah, I think it's really driven by three things. So one is definitely that we are convinced that if we are able to put in more renewables into the energy mix, we can have a very positive impact on climate change. But it's also two other things that really drives and motivates me and the rest of the team day by day to grow Dexter. And that is, one is the electricity system is a very complex machine. And there's a lot of deep knowledge needed to understand what is actually happening there. So people get very excited within Dexter to solve those complex problems. And the other one is, it turns out that the use of machine learning and artificial intelligence and data science is a very good application for those complex systems. So it's really having an impact on climate change. Second, working on a really complex problem. And three, applying very new and advanced technologies.
And Alexis, you've already described how, in Cyprus, Greece, all the countries that you guys are really located in, the impact of climate change is really sort of in your face. And obviously the insurance industry is grappling with this as well. Has sustainability crept up on you over time, or was it, sort of front and center from day one?
Yeah, I think, to be very honest, it was always at the back of our minds, but I don't think it was really front seat until very recently. And back to your point, a big chunk of what we do, right, is estimating probabilities of things happening and trying to both price different products out there to give protection to our customers, but also, pay out at the time of need. And when you look at this year alone, you look at Italy, they had probably the biggest hailstone ever recorded in history. I think it was 21 centimeter in diameter. In Greece, you had one of the worst floods. It was Storm Daniel, which literally flooded, I think it was something estimated like 5 days of consecutive flow of the Danube into one location in terms of rainfall. So when you start looking at some of these things, I mean, climate change is very, very real. And unfortunately, in places like Greece, just to give you an example here, only 16% of the houses are actually insured. And typically those are the guys that have a mortgage and they have to insure it because the bank is asking them to do. So partly it's changing the mindset of the consumer, and partly is making sure that you use data, you use technology, operational efficiency in making sure that you have the right products at the right place and at the right price for consumers to buy them. And that takes a mentality shift. So back to your question, I think that although we started by saying we're there to serve an underserved market, I think we soon realized that a lot of that underserving has to do with climate change. And we are increasingly becoming, and with ETF's help to sing your praises, we are increasingly becoming aware of what we need to do to get our business to where they need to get.
Wow. Well, it's fascinating to be part of the journey because, you're also protecting the people that need protection the most, right? Who, are those who are not insured and for whom, climate change physical risks are going to affect the most. And insurance is just such an important part of that, and why we're so excited about being part of all of these complex systems that all interweave together. If you make a small change in the energy system, it's the butterfly wing effect, right? Or in fashion, the supply chains across the world, this affects everything. I'm conscious I've got three founders here, who, although you guys all work in, sort of different sectors in the sense, fashion, energy, insurance, you're all CEOs and founders of companies, right? And those kinds of companies must have similar challenges and similar, things that keep you up at night. I'm really interested what you each think the sort of greatest lesson you've learned, whether positive or negative, while building your company. And also interested if you guys have any questions for each other as well about, starting businesses and if that's something that's interesting. Laura, what do you think the greatest lesson you've learned so far in building your company has been?
Well, first, I think the key is to find the right associate, and really key to share the wins and the tough moments, I would say. So the journey is not the same. Like if you are with the right person, we say that is the marriage. Well, it's of course I think really true. And then same also for the VC that you let into the company and that help you to grow. And we're super happy about how it works with ETF and Lucy that is at our board. Then for us, what keeps me from sleeping, it's the fact that there is really a market to catch, and that there is a matter of being quick, and so grow that fast mean that you need to recruit a lot of people while maintaining your culture, and that's something super important for us. We have 3 main values that are transparency, rigor, and kindness, it's a real challenge to maintain these values while growing a company. We've been multiplying by 2 the number of people every year. Growing fast, open new markets, and recruit the right people. I feel that these are the biggest challenges.
Hubert, does any of that resonate?
Yeah, it definitely does, especially the growth part. The biggest learning that I have from the last years, and I think together with our leadership team, is that in order to grow, sometimes you also need to let go of things, and that can be very painful. So equally important there is also not to just let go of something and move on, but getting the timing exactly right. When to make a change, for example, in a strategy or tactics or in the organization. And I think that's generally very hard for founders because founders are usually people that have a lot of grit, a lot of persistence, and really try to bring him home. And I'm happy to give you a quick example. So in the very early days when we first had our pre-seed investment round, we had about 10 clients with 8 different products that we were working on. So we lacked a lot of focus. And but also all of those clients were bringing in revenue, of course. And the problem there was that the product team was really busy with just doing operational work and didn't have any time to focus on actually improving the product from a fundamental point of view. And so when we got that investment round in, we kind of got the courage, because we had some money, right, to let go of those short-term revenue goals and think a bit bigger. And that really led us to decide to let go of some of those services and clients for the sake of being successful in the long run. And you can imagine that, especially for me as a CCO responsible for sales and revenue, completely clearing the sales pipeline for the next 3 quarters was quite a scary thing to do.
I can imagine, and of course, there's always that tension, right? When you're small, you know, it's very difficult to provide that bespoke service to every client, but every client counts, right? So it's kind of interesting to think you can standardize as you grow, but not when you're smaller. That seems almost counterintuitive to me.
Yeah, the decision is really delicate, and what's also delicate is especially in our team, we have about 60% of R&D people, and 80% are technical people. So we invest a lot in the product, and sometimes it takes time, right? It can take 6 to 12 months before you really see the results. And if you don't see the results at 10 months, do you decide to keep on going for 2 months or 4 months or 6 months? So when to let go is really a tough decision.
Oh yeah, that sunk cost fallacy becomes really, really difficult to recognize sometimes, doesn't it?
Definitely.
Alexis, have you guys had to sort of recognize any sunk costs in as you've grown your business and pivot and leave things behind?
Yeah, of course. I mean, just before jumping into that, Laura, Hubert, every time I have conversations with entrepreneurs like yourselves, it's amazing how common the paths are or the lessons are. And back to what Laura said before, I think it's super important to have the right co-founder. I don't think this is something you can do on your own. At least I couldn't do it on my own for sure. And probably Emilius will tell you the same. the importance of culture as you grow becomes even more important. I would say now we're about 270 people. I'm spending a big chunk of my time on how do we maintain that culture and keep pushing. And back to the point that Hubert made, which I couldn't agree more with, you need to make some tough calls every now and then. I think it's saying that you pivot, I think is a little bit of a glorifying the action of just changing your normal course in entrepreneurship. Entrepreneurs, by definition, they're attracted by opportunities and they will see what the risks are and try to balance the two. So I wouldn't say we fundamentally change our direction, but we had to adjust. I mean, as we went. I mean, just to give you two examples on that one. When we first started the business, we said, we're direct to consumers, screw the middleman, you don't need the middleman, which is a very, I would say, Anglo-Saxon approach, which doesn't really work in the Greek market. So despite the name Hellas Direct, we actually distribution agnostic now. We work with insurance brokers, agents, and aggregators and directly. Again, I don't consider that as a pivot. I consider it as a necessary adjustment to make sure that you meet whatever opportunities you have. The second one is in Romania. I'm actually calling from Bucharest as we speak. This was probably the fifth market we were planning of entering after leaving the shores of Greece. And we soon realized that there were two big insurance companies that shut down. It was a vast opportunity for anybody with capacity to come into the market. And we had to change our plans and suddenly say, forget about Czech Republic for now, let's go to Romania. And that was about a year and a half ago. And again, I think what I'm always fascinated by entrepreneurs is, first of all, they all dare to dream, which I think is huge, making these tough calls that Hubert talked about. And I think the resilience and the persistence, we say internally that we fall 7, we rise 8. And it's something that I think all of us around the table definitely have been through many times.
Definitely. I'm curious, how long had you known Milios before you decided to go into business together?
Although we're from a very small island, both of us, we haven't actually met until we met in London in the cafeteria of Goldman. We probably knew each other, I would say, 2 to 3 years. We both had co-invested in different startups at the time. So I think that got us a first feel of one another and how we think. But we were not friends before. And I think for us, that was important. I think oftentimes when you're friends with your co-founder before you start a business together, you're quite biased, positively or negatively, and that may become a problem down the line. I don't know if Laura and Hubert, you share the same experience, but for us, we became friends after we started the company, and I think that was important to us.
Well, we were friends since 10 years before launching Fairly Made. So
sometimes it does work. Yeah.
For now, it's super well. Yeah. And we actually we met when we were 15. We were at high school together, and we've made a project together on textile synthetic fibers at that time, and we succeeded a lot in this first project. So it was a bit the thread of our story, I would say. Wow. But when we started, I think you also need a part of craziness to of course start in the adventure and risk a part of your life. But when we started, we were 25 years old. We were still working in our company before launching officially the company. And I remember we started to see a client, and they were like, okay, but you're 25 years old. I'm 45. You think that I'm going to learn life from you? And we are like, yeah, but please listen to what we can say. And a year after that, they became one of our first clients. So I think that sometimes you also have, of course, to push a bit harder than the first reaction that you have. And this implies having this crazy part into yourself.
And Hubert, were you and Luke childhood buds, or more like Alexis and Emilia's meeting later on?
We were acquaintances, and we met somewhere during uni because Luke's brother was a study mate of mine, and how our paths crossed again when I joined Dexter together with Luke. How that actually went is that I wanted to get into the energy transition. And start my own company or start at a scale up. And so I called him up because I knew he was passionate about climate tech for a long time. And I asked him which are the big trends I need to look out for and what companies might be interesting, or do you see opportunities on how to start a business in that space? And we had a couple of chats together and got along quite well. And then he said, yeah, I think we could be good partners. Do you want to join as a co-founder? And I think in the first few years, there was a lot of overlap in terms of interests, and it was definitely a collaboration and also a friendship. But at the same time, Luc and I, we can be very different in terms of views, and we can also have very strong discussions about certain things. And we are both, I think, very passionate. So we can definitely have strong arguments. And the thing is, over the last years, we kind of learned more and more each other's strengths. And that really helped to become better business partners than at the beginning, where we were just friends and having strong arguments.
Well, speaking as someone with a Dutch background as well, I can imagine you guys are very honest and forthright with each other in those arguments.
Yeah, we both have a very Dutch communication style indeed.
It's fascinating to hear, because it's friendship and working together. They say things like, don't work with family or don't work with friends. Whereas, I certainly have found here at ETF Partners is that working with people who become friends is one of the greatest joys, and makes every Monday morning a really great day to come to work, I find personally.
Totally agreed.
Well, I was going to say back to me and ETF Partners. It's been, one of the most exciting things about the last couple of years has been starting to work with each of you. And obviously none of us were friends before we started, before ETF invested, and it's more of a Hellas Direct style, sort of working together first and becoming friends as we work together. Well, I'm interested to hear about, sort of how our support has helped shape your businesses, and also what you're hoping for from the future, in terms of milestones you want to reach, and how you envisage ETF Partners sort of, helping that happen. Laura?
Well, so for us, ETF came for a first round of 5 million. So I would say that the first thing was really to get a first step on creating some routines about reporting, about creating a board, and becoming a more professional and structured company. So here I felt that ETF was really a good support in the discussion with the board members, helping in the negotiations, and also helping in the structuring, also the reporting, and implementing new KPIs. So after that, we also hired a head of finance. And then for specific topics that we were in need for instance, the development in new markets, we had I would say specific support from ETF, bringing people to help us when we had a deep dive to make. After that, it's a great relationship, very transparent one, where every month we keep some updates, and for really intense moments where, for instance, you need to prepare next rounds. This is where I felt that ETF was really a great support, being a sparring partner, doing introductions to the right people, and being really honest and transparent. So I think the values are shared.
Fantastic. And what do you have any milestones that you want to reach that we can really help with?
Yeah, well, the next milestone for us will be the development at the international level. We are leader in France, one of the leader in Europe, and so we need to double down on Europe and start the opening of the US market. So this is where I hope to get good support. And then for sure, it's always keep the best product and matching with our client needs, but something more internally.
Great. And Hubert, how has it been working with ETF Partners?
Yeah, of course, I'm going to tell you it's been great. But
you can be very Dutch. You can be very Dutch and very direct if it's been awful.
Yeah, just to back this up a little bit. So last year we raised a Series B investment round of 10.5 million euros, led by ETF. And in earlier rounds, we had already onboarded investors that were having a different background. So one of them is very much focused on SaaS businesses. And in earlier rounds, we had angels very much involved that were coming from the trading businesses. So they were managing directors at big utility companies in the trading part of those businesses. And in the Series B investment round, we got multiple term sheets. I think it was 5 or 6. And we chose ETF, not only because of the valuation, of course, but because we believed that they would be a great addition to the investors that we already had. And I think the component that Remy, which is the investment manager within ETF that works with us, the component that he brought in was that he's got a tremendous amount of business experience. He was a serial entrepreneur himself that built large, successful companies. And we noticed in a discussion that he was deeply able to relate to the challenges that we have and give meaningful advice to us as entrepreneurs. And we really noticed that in the investment case, he wanted to understand the problem of the client. He wanted to understand how the market exactly works. And he went really deep, even though he didn't have a lot of previous experience in the energy trading business. So that was and still is really good to be sparring how we should position ourselves whilst the energy transition is happening and the market is changing as well. And at the same time, they're also very pragmatic. And by then, I mean, Remy and another colleague, they give us introduction in different markets at utilities, for example, in France and Poland. And that also is a good tie to obviously what our milestone is for this year. So our goal is that we'll be forecasting and optimizing and steering around 3,000 renewable assets this year. This should lead to 8 million euros in revenue. And the team is growing beyond 100 people this year. And there, the true milestone is not to just grow your employee base, but that you remain a culture that is very passionate and deeply motivated like it was in the early days. So that is the big milestone for us.
Alexis, you mentioned the same about growing, maintaining culture as you grow as well. Some similarities there as well.
Yeah, I think from our side, I'm coming back to something that Laura said. It all comes with shared values, right? So I think when we first came across you guys, and it hasn't been that many months, you've only just invested in December. I think in all the conversations we had with Rob, with Patrick, with Alejandro, with you, Zoe, and the rest of the team, I think we could just feel that this team of people similar to us think about the world in a very similar way. Now, we've had, for us, we're a little bit more of a late stage company. We've got about 170 million in revenue. We've raised significant funding before you guys came on board. But I think where you could definitely add value over and above our existing investors like Power Corp of Canada, IFC, BRD, all these guys, I think none of them is a specialist in sustainability. I think everybody has an interest, but they're not a specialist in that. And what you guys have already had a huge impact on the way we think about things is you helped us introduce some structure. A lot of ideas that we had floating around, or a lot of initiatives that maybe we were too shy to start because we've never had the benchmark of, is this the right thing to do or not? I think that helped us put it in a frame of mind, which is, part of our OKRs now. And we had a session the other day on what is the minimum viable impact that we want to have as an organization. And I think looking at this year alone, we identified 2 key areas that can have a real impact on sustainability. The first one is, how can we help more Greeks insure their homes with climate change covers? And that's actually something that we track and we evaluate. As I said before, is only 16% of the Greeks that have their homes insured in an area that is obviously on an earthquake zone. It has floods, it has fires. So how can we help reach that consumer with the right product and make them more aware and protected from climate change? And the second one is because of the Greek crisis, the financial crisis, the Greeks drive the oldest cars in Europe. We have 17-year-old cars, is the oldest fleet. So how can we help our customers? We've got about 400,000 of them in the Greek market. How can we help them switch to younger used cars? So let's not go all new electric cars, which obviously have a carbon footprint of their own, but how can we help somebody with a 25-year-old car come and buy a 4-year-old car, even providing financing to those? So those are 2 measures that you guys help us define much more vividly, I would say. And those are 2 OKRs that we track. I think long term, we do see you guys are a sparring partner or somebody in the tent. So hopefully when we screw up, you tell us. and I think given your expertise, that would definitely be of value. But the interaction with Rob so far has been fantastic. You guys have been very, very helpful to us, and definitely looking forward to the rest of the journey.
Oh, well, fantastic to end this conversation with a bit of ego stroking for us here at ETF. But, I noted earlier that, one of our number one sort of banner, marquee draw is our portfolio companies and our founders. That's why we always at our annual investor meetings, we try to get our founders to be front and center because, you really are our best advertisement in terms of, the kinds of people that we like working with, the values that we want to share, and that culture as well. So, everything that we can do to support you guys as you grow and succeed and sort of hit those milestones. It's a pleasure. Like I said, when you're working with people with whom you're friends and who you respect, and you have that shared set of values and that common goal of sustainability through the sort of best and brightest in terms of innovation, it makes every day a pleasure to come to work, which is really fantastic.
Good.
Thank you.
Guys, thank you very much for this.
Thanks a lot.
Bye. Thank you for listening to this episode of the Sustainability Talks podcast. To find out more or join as a guest, head over to the ETF Partners website at etfpartners.capital. You can also connect with us on LinkedIn and follow us on Medium on @ETF Partners. Until next time, thanks for listening.